Hello, I'm Dr. Melanie Gigurat, and today we will be talking about repeated measures ANOVA. So as indicated here, this is part one because our focus is simply to talk about the assumptions of repeated measures ANOVA. So here are the list of the assumptions. So it include observational independence, and it's also included here unless the dependent data has the within subjects or repeated measures feature. So we are also, of course, familiar how to check for normality and homogeneity of variances, similar when we used one-way ANOVA. So we actually check the homogeneity of variances when we use the Levin's test. So each person has multiple measurement, thus covariance exists, which are departures from the mean of each of the two measurements for each person, and these covariances must also meet certain assumptions. Each person, I would like to reiterate here, each person has multiple measurements. So when we again use the paired sample test, we actually have multiple measurement for each person, but it's only limited into two. Now, if we have three or more, then it means that we cannot use the paired sample t-test. So our option is to use repeated measures ANOVA. Next, so for repeated measures design, the homogeneity requirement known as sphericity demands identical variances and covariances for each level of the within subjects variable. So another way of thinking about sphericity is that if one created new variable for each pair of within subjects variable levels, by subtracting each person's score for one level of the repeated measures variable from that same person's score, for other level of within subject variable, the variances for all of these new difference scores would be equal. And let us also be open that we rarely meet sphericity requirement, especially if our researches are behavioral sciences. And violations of these assumptions can have more consequences. So even if, of course, we don't have to be um, we don't have to worry much that we were not able to meet this sphericity because we have some options. Just like when we are checking for what appropriate test to use in our data. So whenever we did not meet some assumption, it means that there is also an alternative. So however, there are effective solutions to these problems as mentioned. So either by modifying the degrees of freedom or by employing the multivariate approach to repeated measures. So we have to consider results of Mochi test, the Bax test, greenhouse gaser test, and or Hoyne-Feld test. So this can be actually be used when we did not meet the assumptions on sphericity. So despite the fact that repeated measures ANOVA is fairly robust to violations of normality, the dependent variable should be approximately normally distributed at each level of the independent variable. So thank you for watching.